The giant alien ship appeared near Earth-Moon like a dark cloud blocking the stars. Commander Veltar stood on his bridge looking at the small blue planet through the massive viewing screen. The ship was called Eternal Dominion, and it was bigger than most human cities. Veltar was blue-skinned with 4 arms and golden eyes that glowed in the dark. He wore shiny armor covered in strange symbols that meant he was very important in the Kree Empire. Veltar had done this many times before. He had conquered over 50 planets in his long life. Each time was the same. The aliens would see his massive ship panic and surrender within hours. Some species tried to fight, but their weapons were like throwing rocks at a mountain. The Kree Empire had been conquering worlds for 1,000 years, and they had never lost a single war. The alien commander pressed a button on his chair and spoke into a device that would send his message to Earth. His voice was deep and scary like thunder in a cave greetings. Primitive species I am. Commander Veltar of the mighty Kree Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our glorious civilization. You have exactly 72 hours to surrender your governments and prepare for occupation. If you resist, you will be destroyed, and your planet will be taken anyway. Choose wisely. On Earth, Captain Lee Minho was drinking coffee at the Pacific Defense Station when the alien message came through the speakers. Lee Minho was a tall man with short black hair and scars on his hands from the corporate wars. He had been a soldier for 20 years and had seen terrible battles between Earth companies fighting for resources in space. But he had never seen anything like this alien message. Lee Minho called his team to the main meeting room. The room had big screens showing the alien ship and computers everywhere. His best people came running when they heard the emergency alarm. Dr. Park Sora arrived first carrying her tablet computer. She was the smartest person Lee Minho knew about alien life forms. She had been studying space signals for 10 years waiting for this day. Colonel Kim Jun-ho came next. He was older than Lee Minho with gray hair and cold eyes. Kim Jun-ho had fought in every war Earth had seen in the past 30 years. He knew how to kill enemies and how to win battles that looked impossible. Other soldiers followed him into the room, including engineers and pilots and communication experts. Lee Minho played the alien message again. Everyone listened carefully to the deep, scary voice promising destruction. If Earth did not surrender, Dr. Park. Sora took notes on her tablet while Kim Jun-ho stared at the screen showing the alien ship. The ship was beautiful in a strange way with smooth curves and bright lights, like a floating palace. This is interesting, said Dr. Park Sora, looking up from her tablet. The ship design tells us a lot about these aliens. They built it to look impressive and scary, but look at those smooth surfaces and decorative parts. This does not look like a real warship. It looks like something built to frighten people who have never seen space. Combat Kim. Jun-ho nodded slowly. He had seen real warships before. Ships built for fighting were ugly and covered in armor and weapons. This alien ship looked more like a rich person's yacht than a military vessel. Maybe these aliens have never fought anyone who could fight back, he said. Lee Minho looked at his team. These aliens think we will panic and surrender like everyone else they have conquered, but they do not know humans very well. We do not surrender when someone threatens us. We get angry and we fight back harder than before. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Kim Jun-ho smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile he wore before he destroyed his enemies. 3 days, he said. The aliens gave us 3 days to surrender. They think that is enough time for us to panic and give up. But 3 days is enough time to show them what human warfare really looks like. Dr. Park Sora was studying the alien ship on her computer. She had taken pictures with Earth telescopes and was running calculations. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "The alien ship has powerful energy, shields and weapons that could destroy cities, but I do not see any kinetic defenses. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons like lasers and plasma beams. What does that mean? Asked Lee. Minho-it means they have never fought anyone who uses simple weapons like bullets or missiles or rocks thrown really fast. Their technology is very advanced, but it is also very specialized. They have only fought other high-technology aliens who use energy weapons. Kim Jun-ho stood up and walked to the big screen, showing the alien ship. He studied it carefully, like a hunter looking at his prey. Then he turned to his team. "We are not going to surrender," he said, "and we are not going to fight. Like they expect us to fight. We are going to teach these aliens why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Lee Min-ho started making calls to military bases around the world and in space. He called the hidden bases on Mars and the asteroid belt. He called the secret research stations that most people did not know existed. He used special communication codes that could not be intercepted by alien technology. While Lee Min-ho made his calls, Dr. Park Sora continued studying the alien ship and the message they had sent. She noticed something important. The aliens spoke about integration and occupation. They did not plan to destroy Earth completely. They wanted to keep it and rule over humans, like keeping pets. "This is good news," she said. "The aliens want to conquer us, not destroy us. That means they will try to use minimum force. They will expect us to surrender when we see their superior technology. They have probably never seen a species that responds to threats by becoming more dangerous." Colonel Kim Jun-ho was making his own plans. He called his special forces teams scattered across the galaxy. Teams that had been disguised as farmers and miners and traders on distant worlds. People thought these were just human colonies trying to survive in space, but they were really military bases waiting for orders. The alien commander, Veltar, was waiting patiently on his ship. He had seen this before. Primitive species always needed time to understand that resistance was hopeless. Some tried to run away, some tried to hide, some even tried to fight with their crude weapons, but they all surrendered eventually when they realized how outmatched they were. Veltar did not know that humans had never learned how to surrender properly. When humans were threatened, they did not look for ways to give up safely. They looked for ways to make their enemies regret threatening them. They did not fight to survive. They fought to win so completely that no one would ever threaten them again. As the first day passed, Earth looked busy but not panicked. The aliens watching from space saw factories working harder, ships launching from hidden bases, and strange new structures being built, but this did not worry them. Primitive species always tried desperate last-minute preparations before surrendering. On his ship, Veltar reviewed the reports from his scouts. The humans were indeed building something, but their technology was primitive compared to Kree science. Whatever they were building would be useless against shields that could stop planet-destroying weapons and armor that could withstand the heat of suns. Veltar made one mistake that would cost his empire everything. He assumed that humans would fight like every other species he had conquered, using the most advanced weapons they could build against his superior technology. He never imagined that humans might fight using simple weapons that his advanced defenses were not designed to stop. The second day passed with more activity on Earth. The aliens detected energy signatures and metal construction, but nothing that looked like advanced weapons to them. They saw humans working together in ways that seemed organized, but they thought this was just fear making the primitives cooperate before their inevitable surrender. Dr. Park Sora made a discovery that changed everything. She found communication signals between the alien ship and other ships scattered across the galaxy. The Kree Empire was huge with thousands of ships and millions of conquered worlds, but they were all connected by the same communication system and the same tactical thinking. Lee Min-ho gathered all the information his team had collected. The aliens were powerful, but they thought in predictable ways they had conquered so many. worlds using the same methods that they could not imagine any other kind of warfare. They expected fear, panic, and eventual surrender. As the third day began, Kim Jun-ho sent a message to all human forces scattered across the galaxy in hidden colonies and secret bases. The message was simple. The aliens think they are conquering Earth, but today they will learn that they have declared war on the human species. And when humans go to war, we do not fight just to win battles. We fight to end wars forever. Countdown was almost over. Soon the aliens would expect Earth surrender or begin their attack. They had no idea that they were about to face something no species in the galaxy had ever survived. An entire race that had evolved to fight total war and accept nothing less than complete victory. Commander Veltar prepared to receive Earth surrender message, confident that another primitive world was about to join his empire. He never imagined that in a few hours he would be sending a very different message back to his commanders, a message warning them that humans were unlike any enemy the Kree had ever faced. The 72 hours ended at exactly noon. Earth time. Commander Veltar sat in his command chair expecting to receive a surrender message from the frightened humans. Instead, his communication officer received something completely different. A human appeared on the screen wearing a military uniform with cold eyes and a calm expression. "I am Colonel Kim Jun-ho of Earth Defense Forces," said the human, looking directly at Veltar. "We have received your surrender demands, and we reject them completely. You came to our system expecting an easy conquest, but you made one critical mistake. You assumed we would fight like other species you have conquered. We do not fight to delay defeat. We fight to achieve total victory." Veltar laughed. The primitive human was trying to sound brave, but what could their crude technology do against shields that could stop planet-killing weapons? However, his laughter stopped when reports started coming in from the outer colonies. Every human settlement the Kree had conquered was suddenly erupting in coordinated rebellion. On the colony world of New Seoul, a human named Choi Dae-ho had been living as a simple farmer for 6 months. The alien occupiers thought he grew vegetables in his barn and sold them in the local market. They never suspected that he was actually Earth's most brilliant military engineer, building devices that would change everything. When Colonel Kim Jun-ho's signal reached New Seoul, Choi Dae-ho activated the machines he had hidden throughout the colony. The alien soldiers noticed something strange first. Their energy weapons stopped working. Then their communication devices went silent. Then their vehicles and even their personal armor began shutting down one by one. The alien garrison. Commander tried to call for help, but his communication system was completely dead. He ordered his soldiers to retreat to their ships, but discovered that the ships would not start. Their advanced technology was dying like flowers in winter, and they could not understand why. Choi Dae-ho walked out of his barn, carrying a device that looked like a simple farming tool. The alien soldiers pointed their weapons at him, but the weapons were just pieces of metal now. The microscopic machines Choi Dae-ho had released into their equipment had infected every piece of Kree technology in the colony. "You do not understand human warfare," said Choi Dae-ho to the confused aliens. "We do not fight your strengths, we eliminate them. Your technology is very advanced, but it follows predictable patterns. My machines have learned those patterns and turned them against you. Your own equipment is now poisoned against itself." The same thing was happening on 12 other human colonies across the galaxy. Humans who had been disguised as farmers, miners, and traders were revealing themselves as military specialists. The aliens had thought they were conquering random settlements, but they had actually occupied forward military bases disguised as civilian outposts in the asteroid belt near Earth. Captain Nam Hayok commanded a ship called Silent Thunder. It was one of 50 human vessels that had been hiding among the space rocks for months while the aliens issued their ultimatum. The ships were invisible to alien sensors because they used no energy signatures that the Kree would recognize as military. Nam Hayek had been studying the alien mothership through passive sensors that looked like space debris. His engineers had discovered something remarkable about alien defensive technology. It was incredibly advanced, but also incredibly specialized. The aliens had designed their shields to stop energy weapons because that was what every other species in the galaxy used. But humans had developed something. Different Nam Hayek weapons were not energy-based. They were kinetic, simple chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic coils. The tungsten rods were no more advanced than bullets, but they moved at 30% of light speed when Silent Thunder fired its first salvo. The alien flagship Magnificent shields did not even activate. The defensive system did not recognize metal projectiles as weapons because no civilized species used such primitive attacks. The tungsten rods punched through the beautiful alien hull like needles through paper. Commander Veltar watched in horror as his supposedly invincible ship began breaking apart around him. Emergency alarms screamed, but half the systems were already destroyed. The humans had not used advanced weapons to penetrate his shields. They had used weapons so simple that his shields ignored them completely. More human ships appeared from the asteroid belt, all firing the same kinetic weapons. The alien fleet tried to return fire. But their beautiful energy weapons were designed for precise long-range combat against other energy-using civilizations. The human ships were moving in chaotic, unpredictable patterns that made targeting impossible. Dr. Yoonji Won had been studying alien psychology and military doctrine from captured communications. She had discovered something that military commanders found disturbing. The Kree Empire had never fought a total war. They conquered through intimidation and technological superiority against primitive enemies who gave up quickly. The aliens had no experience with enemies who became more dangerous when threatened. They expected resistance to decrease as losses mounted, but human resistance was increasing as more colonies joined. The rebellion and more hidden ships revealed themselves. The aliens were facing something their psychology could not comprehend. On Earth, Lee Minho received reports from across the galaxy. Human resistance cells were not just fighting back. They were winning. The aliens had superior individual technology, but humans had superior coordination and tactical thinking. Every human outpost was connected through quantum communication networks that the aliens had never detected. The Kree fleet in Earth orbit tried to retreat, but discovered another human innovation. Captain Baek Soo-young had been leading stealth missions to map the alien faster-than-light travel network. The beautiful, efficient system that connected the Empire was also its greatest weakness. Baek Soo-young's ships had been placing devices near the hyperspace tunnel entrances that the aliens used to travel between stars. When the alien fleet tried to escape, they found that their tunnels were blocked by gravity distortions that made faster-than-light travel impossible. Commander Veltar managed to send one desperate message to his empire before Nam Hayek's ship put another tungsten rod through his command center. The humans do not fight like any species we have studied. Transmitted. They do not fight to survive or defend. They fight like they want to destroy everything that threatens them. The message reached the Kree homeworld, where military commanders read it with growing alarm. They had expected reports of easy victory, or at worst, difficult conquest. Instead, they received warnings about humans who turned their own technology against them and used weapons so primitive that advanced defenses could not stop them. High Admiral Thex Carr read Veltar's final message. With disbelief, an entire battle group destroyed by primitives using kinetic weapons. It was impossible, but the reports kept coming in from every human colony. Alien garrisons were being defeated by enemies who had been living among them for months, disguised as harmless civilians. The worst part was that humans were not just winning individual battles. They were systematically destroying the infrastructure that held the Kree Empire together. Every hyperspace relay station that Baek Soo-young forces reached was being destroyed. cutting off alien fleets from their supply lines and command structure. Dr. Park Sora analyzed the alien responses and found them predictable. The Kree would escalate. They would send more ships with bigger weapons, thinking that superior force would overwhelm human tactics, but humans had been preparing for escalation. The more aliens that came to Earth, the more targets there would be for human weapons. Colonel Kim Jun-ho addressed Earth military commanders. As reports of victories came in from across the galaxy, the aliens thought they were conquering individual human settlements. He said, "They did not realize they were declaring war on a species that had spent centuries perfecting the art of total warfare." The first phase was complete. Human colonies were free, alien fleets were scattered, and the Empire hyperspace network was being systematically destroyed. But Kim Jun-ho knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would send everything they had to Earth for one final battle. That was exactly what humans wanted. When the aliens brought their entire fleet to one location, they would discover what humans meant by total war. It would not be a battle for territory or resources. It would be a battle to determine whether the Kree Empire would continue to exist. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had never been successfully conquered by any enemy. When humans went to war, they did not fight to win battles. They fought to end the possibility of future wars by completely destroying their enemy's capacity to threaten anyone ever again. High Admiral Thexkar of the Kree Empire sat in his war room reading reports that made no sense. 2 entire battle groups had been destroyed by primitive humans using weapons that should not have worked against Kree technology. The reports described kinetic weapons and system failures and coordinated rebellions across dozens of worlds. The Admiral was old, even by Kree standards. He had served the Empire for 400 years and had overseen the conquest of over 200 worlds. Never in his long experience had he seen anything like these human tactics. The primitives were not just resisting, they were systematically destroying everything the Empire had built in human space. Thexkar called his fleet commanders to an emergency meeting. The massive war room filled with blue-skinned aliens, wearing elaborate uniforms covered in victory decorations. These were the finest military minds in the Empire, veterans of countless successful conquests. But they looked confused and worried. As they read the reports from human space, "We underestimated them," said Fleet Commander Kex Nal. "The humans have been planning this for months, maybe years. They turned our own assumptions against us. We expected primitive resistance. Instead, we found coordinated military operations disguised as civilian settlements." Admiral Thexkar studied the tactical displays showing human-controlled space. Red markers indicated destroyed Kree facilities, while blue markers showed human positions. The pattern was clear. Humans had not randomly rebelled. They had systematically targeted every piece of infrastructure that held the local empire together. The Admiral made his decision. The Second Armada would be dispatched immediately. 200 warships, including the supercarrier Galaxy End, would travel to Earth and crush this human rebellion once and for all. If primitive kinetic weapons had defeated the First Fleet, then overwhelming numbers would solve the problem. On Earth, General Song Min-jae had been expecting exactly this response. Human intelligence had been studying Kree military doctrine through captured communications and psychological profiles. The aliens thought in simple patterns: if 100 ships failed, send 200. If 200 failed, send 500. But humans had been escalating faster than the aliens could imagine. While the Second Armada prepared for departure, human engineers had been converting entire planets into weapons manufacturing centers. The Moon had been hollowed out and transformed into a massive kinetic weapon platform that could launch projectiles across the solar system. Professor Han Sung-min completed his analysis of captured alien technology in his laboratory deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The discovery he made changed everything. The faster-than-light travel network that connected the Kree Empire was not just a transportation system, it was the Empire's central nervous system. Every major decision, every supply shipment, Every communication between distant worlds traveled through the hyperspace relay stations. If those stations were destroyed, the Empire would be cut into isolated pieces, unable to coordinate or support each other. It was like finding the main power switch for an entire civilization. Captain Baek Soo-young received her new orders with a grim smile. Her Deep Strike Division had grown from a few experimental ships to a full fleet of stealth vessels equipped with the most advanced technology humans had ever built. Their mission was simple in concept, but terrifying in scope. Destroy every hyperspace relay station in Kree space. The stealth ships used a combination of alien materials and human innovation to become invisible to Kree sensors. They moved through space like ghosts, visiting relay station after relay station. Each station was protected by automated defenses and garrison fleets, but the humans had learned to turn alien technology against itself. At each target, Baek Soo-young forces would release Choi Dae-ho microscopic machines into the station systems. The alien technology would begin failing in cascading patterns that spread from system to system. Within hours, the massive relay stations would be dead hulks drifting in space. The Second Armada arrived at Earth expecting to find a desperate world preparing last-ditch defenses. Instead, Admiral Thek's car found something that looked more like an industrial complex than a planet Earth. Continents had been reshaped into manufacturing centers connected by transport systems that moved materials at incredible speeds. The moon was the most shocking sight. It had been completely converted into a weapons platform covered in magnetic launch tubes that could accelerate projectiles to speeds that made them more dangerous than energy weapons. The entire satellite was now a gun pointed at anyone who threatened Earth. Thek's car ordered an immediate attack, confident that 200 ships could overwhelm any primitive defenses. His fleet advanced in perfect formation weapons, charging shields at maximum power. The aliens had learned from the previous disaster and were prepared for kinetic attacks. Then Captain Lee Ji-soo activated the gravity mines that human engineers had been placing throughout the solar system for months. The mines did not explode like traditional weapons. Instead, they created artificial gravity wells that pulled ships out of their intended courses. The perfect Kree formation became chaos as ships found themselves being dragged toward each other by invisible forces. Collisions began occurring as vessels tried to avoid crashing into their own fleetmates. The aliens had never encountered weapons that used gravity itself as a tool of war. While the alien fleet struggled with basic navigation, the moon opened fire. Tungsten rods accelerated to incredible speeds began punching through alien hulls. The kinetic weapons hit with the force of nuclear bombs, but without the energy signatures that would trigger alien defensive systems. Admiral Thek's car watched his magnificent fleet being torn apart by what appeared to be an entire solar system converted into a fortress. Every planet and moon had been equipped with weapons that his shields could not stop. His ships were being destroyed by rocks thrown fast enough to crack mountains. The worst part was the systematic nature of the attack. Human weapons were not firing randomly. They were targeting specific systems on each alien ship. Engines first to prevent escape, then weapons to prevent retaliation, then life support to force surrender. The humans were not just winning, they were demonstrating complete control over the battle. Dr. Yoon Ji-won had calculated the psychological impact perfectly. As more alien ships were disabled rather than destroyed, panic began spreading through the fleet. The Kree had never experienced being completely outmatched by supposedly primitive enemies. Their confidence began collapsing as quickly. As their formation, Captain Nam Hyok Silent Thunder moved through the chaos like a predator hunting prey. His ship had been upgraded with captured alien technology and human innovations, making it faster and more deadly than any Kree vessel. The tungsten rods it fired were guided by alien targeting systems but launched by human magnetic coils. More human ships revealed themselves from hiding places throughout the solar system. They had been disguised as asteroids, space debris, and even destroyed. Alien hulls from previous battles. The humans had turned the entire star system into a trap that the aliens had walked into willingly. Admiral Thek's car tried to order a retreat, but discovered that Captain Beck's Su-Yung Deep Strike Division had destroyed 17 more hyperspace relay stations while his fleet was traveling to Earth. The Second Armada was trapped in human space with no way to call for help or escape to friendly territory. The Admiral managed to send one final message before his flagship was disabled by a kinetic strike that destroyed his communications array. "The humans do not fight like any species we know," he transmitted. "They have turned warfare itself into a science. We cannot match their tactical thinking or their industrial capacity." The message reached the Kree homeworld, where Emperor Cax Thul read it with growing rage. 2 fleets destroyed by primitives. It was impossible. It was humiliating. It was a threat to everything the Empire represented. If humans could defeat Kree fleets, then other subject species might begin to rebel. The Emperor made a decision that would seal his empire's fate. He ordered the mobilization of the Grand Armada. Every available warship in the Empire would be sent to Earth to end this human threat once and for all. 5,000 ships, including his personal dreadnought Infinite Conquest, would show the galaxy what happened to species that dared to resist Kree rule on Earth. Colonel Kim Jun-ho received intelligence reports about the Grand Armada with satisfaction. The aliens were doing exactly what humans had predicted they would do. Instead of trying new tactics or negotiating, they were simply escalating with more of the same failed strategy. The bigger the alien fleet, the more devastating their defeat would be when humans turned their own numbers against them. Every ship the Empire sent to Earth was a ship that would not be available to defend Kree worlds from human liberation forces. General Song Min-jae. Coordinated with resistance fighters throughout the galaxy, the Grand Armada departure would leave hundreds of worlds defended only by garrison forces. Human agents who had been hiding among conquered populations for years were ready to strike. The stage was set for the final battle, but it would not be the glorious victory the Emperor expected. Instead, it would be a demonstration of what happened when a species that had evolved for total war faced an enemy that still believed in limited conflict. The Kree Empire was about to learn that humans did not fight to win territory or resources. They fought to end wars permanently by making sure their enemies could never threaten anyone again. Emperor Cax Thul had ruled the Kree Empire for 3 centuries from his throne on the capital world of Kree Prime. Never in his long reign had he faced a threat that required his personal attention. The Empire stretched across thousands of star systems with billions of subjects who had never dared to rebel against Kree rule. The reports from human space made no sense. 2 entire fleets destroyed by primitives using crude kinetic weapons, hyperspace relay stations going offline across dozens of systems, coordinated rebellions on worlds that had been peacefully occupied for years. The Emperor read each report with growing disbelief and rage. Defense Minister Kor Val entered the throne room carrying more bad news, sire, he said, bowing low. Before speaking, the humans have destroyed 43 relay stations in the past week. Our communication network in the Outer Rim is completely severed. We have lost contact with over 200 colony worlds. The Emperor stood up from his crystalline throne, his 4 arms gesturing angrily. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These humans were barely capable of space travel when we first encountered them. How did they develop weapons that can defeat our technology in just a few months?" Minister Kor. Val hesitated before answering. "Sire, our analysts believe the humans have been preparing for this war much longer than we realized. Their colonies were not random settlements. They were disguised military bases. Their civilians were actually soldiers in hiding. They planned this rebellion before we even discovered their homeworld emperor." Cax Thul walked to the massive window overlooking his capital city. Millions of Kree citizens lived in towering spires of crystal and metal, confident in their empire's invincibility. They had never seen their fleets defeated, their technology turned against them, their very way of life threatened by primitives. "Perhaps we should negotiate," suggested Minister Cor-Val carefully. The humans seemed to want independence, not conquest. "We could offer them autonomy in exchange for peace. Our empire is vast. We do not need their few worlds to maintain our power." The Emperor turned around with fury blazing in his golden eyes. "Negotiate," he roared. "We do not negotiate with primitives. We conquer them or we destroy them. The Kree Empire has never shown weakness, and it will not start now. Prepare the Grand Armada. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior will go to Earth Minister." Cor-Val tried to protest Sire that would leave our core worlds defenseless. "If we send the entire fleet to fight humans, what happens if other species rebel while we are gone?" The Emperor smiled coldly. "Other species fear us because we have never been defeated if we allow humans to destroy our fleets and keep their independence. Every primitive world in the Empire will think they can rebel too. We must crush the humans so completely that no one ever dares to challenge us again on Earth." Dr. Park Sora completed her final analysis of Kree psychology and biology, with disturbing conclusions. The aliens had never evolved to fight total war because they had never needed to. Their overwhelming technological advantage meant they won through intimidation and superior firepower against enemies who gave up quickly. "The Kree Empire was like a giant with glass bones," she explained to the War Council. "They look incredibly powerful from the outside, but they have fundamental weaknesses. Their entire military doctrine is based on quick victories against inferior opponents. They have no experience with enemies who fight back effectively." Colonel Kim Jun-ho studied the latest intelligence reports about the Grand Armada. 5,000 ships was an impressive number, but it was also exactly what humans had been hoping for. The aliens were bringing their entire fleet to one location where human weapons could destroy them all at once. Engineer Choi Dae-ho had been developing new applications for his technology poisoning systems. If the aliens wanted to bring 5,000 ships to Earth, he would give them a surprise they would never forget. Working with captured alien equipment, he had created what he called cascading system failure. The new version of his microscopic machines could not only disable alien technology, they could make it spread the infection to other nearby systems. Like a virus jumping from person to person, the system failures would leap from ship to ship until entire fleets were dead in Space Captain. Lee Jisoo received orders that made her smile grimly. The gravity mine concept had worked so well against the Second Armada that Earth engineers had developed something much more ambitious. They were going to turn the entire outer solar system into a gravity maze using technology reverse-engineered from alien ships. Human scientists had built massive gravity manipulation devices around Jupiter and Saturn. When the Grand Armada arrived, they would find themselves channeled into specific flight paths that led directly into human weapons. General Song Min-jae coordinated with resistance cells on every world the Kree Empire had ever conquered. The aliens had made a critical mistake by sending their entire fleet to Earth. While the Grand Armada traveled through hyperspace, every garrison force in the Empire would face simultaneous rebellion. The human colonies had never been isolated settlements. They were connected through quantum communication networks that allowed instant coordination across the galaxy. When Song Min-jae gave the signal, every human agent, every hidden weapon, every disguised military base would activate at the same moment. Admiral Park Hyun-woo commanded the human fleet that would face the Grand Armada. These were not the crude ships the aliens expected from primitives. Months of studying captured technology had allowed human engineers to build vessels that combined human innovation with alien materials. The new human warships were faster than Kree vessels, more maneuverable, and armed with weapons that alien shields could not stop. They also carried Choi Daeho system infection devices that would turn the Grand Armada's own size against itself. Dr. Yoon Ji-won had calculated the psychological impact of the coming battle perfectly. The Kree had never experienced total defeat at the hands of supposedly inferior enemies. When their Grand Armada was destroyed, their entire worldview would collapse along with their empire. Captain Baek, Soo-young Deep. Strike Division had been systematically destroying hyperspace relay stations throughout Kree space. By the time the Grand Armada reached Earth, most of the Empire communication network would be offline, leaving scattered worlds unable to coordinate or call for help. The trap was perfect. The aliens were bringing everything they had to fight an enemy that had been preparing for total war for months. Every advantage the Kree thought they possessed had been turned into a weakness that humans could exploit. Emperor Cax-Thul stood on the bridge of his personal dreadnought Infinite Conquest, watching the Grand Armada form up around his flagship. 5,000 warships represented the accumulated military might of a 1,000-year empire. Surely, enough to crush any primitive resistance. The Emperor had never lost a battle in his long life. He could not imagine that in a few days he would be sending a very different message than the victory announcement he had prepared. Instead, he would be transmitting a desperate warning about enemies who did not just fight to win battles. They fought to destroy civilizations. As the Grand Armada entered hyperspace heading for Earth, the Emperor felt confident that he was about to teach the galaxy an important lesson about challenging Kree power. He had no idea that he was actually traveling toward the complete destruction of everything his ancestors had built. The humans were not preparing to fight a battle. They were preparing to end an empire. They had spent months turning the entire solar system into a weapon designed to annihilate the largest fleet ever assembled. The Kree were about to learn that humans did not fight wars to achieve limited objectives when humans went to war. They went to war to ensure that their enemies could never threaten anyone ever again. The age of the Kree Empire was about to end not through gradual decline, but through complete annihilation in a matter of hours. The Grand Armada emerged from hyperspace in the most impressive display of military power the galaxy had ever witnessed. 5,000 warships materialized in perfect formation around Emperor Cax-Thul's flagship, Infinite Conquest. Each vessel was a masterpiece of Kree engineering capable of destroying planets and cracking moons. Emperor Cax-Thul stood on his command bridge expecting to see a broken world begging for mercy. Instead, he found himself looking at something no alien mind could have imagined. Earth was barely recognizable. The blue and green planet had been transformed into something that looked more like a massive weapon than a natural world. The continents themselves had been reshaped into geometric patterns that served military purposes. Vast manufacturing complexes stretched across entire land masses, connected by transport systems that moved materials at incredible speeds. The oceans had been converted into cooling systems for planetary-scale weapons that drew power from the planet core, but the real shock was what humans had done to their moon. The natural satellite had been completely hollowed out and rebuilt as a kinetic weapon platform. Its surface was covered with thousands of magnetic launch tubes, each one capable of accelerating projectiles to speeds that made them more dangerous than nuclear missiles. Captain Lee Jisoo watched the alien fleet through her command center deep inside the weaponized moon. She had been waiting for this moment. For months, the gravity maze was ready. The kinetic platforms were charged, and every human ship in the system was positioned exactly where it needed to be. Activate the maze, she ordered calmly. Jupiter and Saturn had been equipped with massive gravity manipulation devices that human engineers had built using reverse-engineered alien technology. The devices created artificial currents in space-time itself, invisible rivers of gravitational force that could move objects across vast distances. Grand Armada perfect formation began to distort, as invisible forces grabbed their ships and pulled them into specific flight paths. Emperor Cax-Thul ordered his fleet to resist, not understanding that fighting the gravity currents only made them stronger. The more thrust his ships used, the deeper they were drawn into the maze. Admiral Thex Carr, who had survived the destruction of the Second Armada, tried to warn the Emperor, "Sire, the humans have turned space itself into a weapon. We must retreat immediately before they complete whatever trap they are building." But retreat was impossible. Captain Baek Soo-young Deep Strike Division had spent weeks destroying hyperspace relay stations throughout the galaxy. The Grand Armada was trapped in human space with no way to escape and no way to call for reinforcements. Engineer Choi Dae-ho waited until the alien ships were positioned exactly where he wanted them before activating his masterpiece. Microscopic machines invisible to alien sensors had been seeded throughout local space during the months of preparation. When activated, they began their deadly work. The machines were designed to infect alien technology with cascading system failures. But these were not random breakdowns. They were coordinated failures programmed to turn the aliens' own weapons against each other. Ships began firing on their own fleetmates as their targeting systems identified nearby vessels as enemies. Dr. Yoon Ji-won had calculated the psychological impact perfectly. As alien ships began destroying each other, panic spread through the fleet like wildfire. The Kree had never experienced their own weapons being turned against them. They had no protocols for dealing with technology that made their fleet into its own worst enemy. Emperor Cax Thul watched in horror as his magnificent armada began tearing itself apart. Ships that had served the Empire for centuries were firing on each other while their crews screamed in confusion. Emergency communications filled with desperate pleas for orders that no one could give. Admiral Park Hyun-woo chose this moment to reveal the human fleet that had been hiding throughout the solar system. Ships emerged from behind asteroids, from within gas giant atmospheres. From inside, what had appeared to be space debris. These were not the crude vessels the aliens expected. The new human warships were technological marvels that combined alien materials with human innovation. They were faster than Kree ships, more maneuverable, and completely invisible to alien sensors until the moment they opened fire. Their weapons were kinetic systems that alien shields simply ignored. Captain Nam Hyok, Silent Thunder, had been upgraded with the best technology from both species. His ship moved through the chaos like a hunting predator, picking off disabled alien vessels with precision strikes. Each tungsten rod he fired was guided by alien targeting computers, but launched with human ingenuity. The battle that followed was not really a battle in any sense. The Kree understood. Their ships were trapped by gravity weapons, infected with system failures, and under attack by weapons their defenses could not stop. Every time they tried to form defensive formations, the gravity maze pulled them back into killing zones. The moon opened fire with its thousands of launch tubes, sending streams of kinetic projectiles across space at incredible speeds. The tungsten rods hit alien ships with the force of atomic bombs, but without the energy signatures that would trigger defensive systems. Magnificent warships that had conquered hundreds of worlds were torn apart like paper. Captain Lee Ji-soo coordinated the attack from her command center, watching as human weapons systematically dismantled the largest fleet ever assembled. The targeting was not random. Every shot was precisely aimed to disable specific systems on each alien ship: engines, first weapons, second life support, third. The psychological warfare was as devastating as the physical destruction. Human communication specialists broadcast messages to the alien fleet explaining exactly how each weapon worked and why their defenses were useless. The Kree learned in real time that their entire military doctrine was obsolete. Throughout the galaxy, General Song Min-jae's signal reached every human resistance cell simultaneously. Human agents who had been disguised as farmers, miners, and traders for years revealed their true nature. Every alien garrison found themselves facing enemies who had been living among them, preparing for this moment. On worlds across the Empire, Kree occupation forces discovered that their communication systems were dead, their weapons were failing, and their supposedly loyal subjects were actually trained soldiers. The coordinated rebellion was not random violence. It was a military operation planned and executed with precision that terrified alien commanders. Emperor Cax Thul tried desperately to maintain control of his dying fleet, but every order he gave only made things worse. His ships were programmed to follow Kree tactical doctrine, which made them predictable targets for human weapons that had been designed specifically to exploit those patterns. The Emperor managed to record one final message before his flagship communications array was destroyed by a kinetic strike. We were wrong about everything he transmitted to whatever remained of his empire. The humans are not primitives fighting for survival. They are a species that has evolved to destroy civilizations. His message was broadcast across human-controlled space, along with recordings of the Grand Armada destruction. Every species that had ever been conquered by the Kree heard their Emperor final words and watched their supposedly invincible fleet being systematically annihilated by humans using simple kinetic weapons. The battle lasted only 6 hours, but it changed galactic history forever. 5,000 alien warships, the accumulated military might of a 1,000-year empire, were reduced to floating debris by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. The few ships that survived did so only because humans allowed them to escape. Captain Baek Soo-young received new orders to let some alien vessels flee back to Kree space. They would carry the message that human warfare was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Species that fought humans did not just lose battles. They lost the ability to threaten anyone ever again. Dr. Park Sora analyzed the alien survivors and confirmed what human strategists had predicted. The Kree Empire was finished. Without their fleet, their communication network, their technological advantage, they were just another species of primitives scattered across thousands of worlds. The Grand Armada had been the backbone of Kree power. With its destruction, the Empire collapsed, not through gradual decline, but through complete systemic failure in a single day. Subject species throughout the galaxy began declaring independence, knowing that the aliens no longer had the power to stop them. Colonel Kim Jun-ho addressed the human forces as reports of total victory came in from across the galaxy. "We did not just win a battle," he said. "We ended a war that has lasted 1,000 years. The Kree Empire is finished, and every species in the galaxy now knows what happens to those who threaten humanity." The message was clear. Humans did not fight defensive wars to protect their territory. They fought total wars to reshape the galaxy itself. Any species that attempted conquest through intimidation would face complete annihilation. The age of galactic empires built on oppression was over. The age of human enforced peace had begun. 6 months after the annihilation of the Grand Armada, Captain Lee Min-ho stood on the bridge of the New Earth Humanity First Galaxy-class starship. The massive vessel was a marvel of engineering that combined captured alien technology with human innovation, creating something more advanced than anything the Kree Empire had ever built. The ship was not just a warship, though it carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. It was a mobile command center designed to coordinate the rebuilding of galactic civilization. According to human principles, the bridge windows showed a view that would have been impossible just months before. Hundreds of alien ships from dozens of different species flew in formation with the human fleet. These were not conquered vessels forced into service, but willing allies who had joined humanity in creating a new kind of galactic government based on cooperation rather than domination. Dr. Park Sora presented her final report on the former Kree Empire to the new Galactic Council. The blue-skinned aliens who had once ruled thousands of worlds were now just another species, struggling to adapt to a galaxy where technological superiority no longer guaranteed political power. The Kree civilization has essentially ceased to exist as we knew it. She explained to the assembled representatives, most of their worlds have declared independence and formed local governments. Their military technology has been distributed to species they once oppressed, creating a balance of power that makes future conquest impossible. The transformation had been remarkably swift. Once the Grand Armada was destroyed and the hyperspace communication network was severed, the vast Kree Empire simply fell apart like a house of cards. Subject species who had been waiting centuries for an opportunity to rebel found themselves free almost overnight. Colonel Kim Jun-ho, now Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense Forces, established new rules of engagement that would govern interstellar relations. Any species that attempted conquest through intimidation or technological superiority would face immediate intervention by human forces and their allies. The old system of powerful empires dominating primitive worlds was finished. The galaxy now operated under what humans called the Mutual Defense Doctrine. Every world, regardless of its technological level, was protected by a network of allies who would respond to aggression with overwhelming force, Engineer Choi. Daiho had become the galaxy's most sought-after expert in what was now called adaptive warfare. His techniques for turning enemy advantages into weaknesses were being taught to defense forces throughout known space, ensuring that no future empire could dominate through superior technology alone. The most remarkable change was in how different species approached military technology. Instead of building weapons to conquer others, they now developed defenses to protect themselves and their allies. The galaxy had shifted from an arms race for conquest to an arms race for security. Captain Baek Soo-young led the Deep Space Exploration Division, searching for other empires that might pose a threat to the new galactic order. Her ships carried a simple message to any aggressive civilizations they encountered. Humanity offered friendship and trade to peaceful species, but total annihilation to conquerors. The message was not an empty threat. Every species in the galaxy had heard recordings of Emperor Kak's Thule final transmission and seen footage of the Grand Armada destruction. They understood that humans possessed both the technology and the will to destroy entire civilizations that threatened galactic peace. Dr. Yoon Ji-won established the Interspecies Psychology Institute, dedicated to studying how different alien minds approached conflict and cooperation. Her research helped prevent